Everyone, this is Advice for Life with Dr. Cathy, and I just wanted to get on here and do a short video this week about counseling. There's a long time there's been a stigma about counseling, and there's been a thing of if you have to go to a counselor you must be crazy, or you can't handle life, or some people, even when they sit down, they can think, I don't even know if I need to see a counselor, this rises to that occasion, or whatever. So I wanted to clear up some of that and let you know what counseling is, especially today in the biblical counseling world. You don't have to be falling apart to go see a counselor. In the Bible, there is a verse, and I want to cover a couple of them today, but one that I want to cover off right off the bat is Proverbs 15:22, and it says, "Without counselors, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed." I think that's pretty sound advice, and that's what biblical counseling is. Biblical counseling is that we need people in our lives. Now, this could be your pastor, this could be a trusted friend, or it can actually be a counselor if you need confidentiality, or if you need someone who has studied this method and put some work to it, put some legs to it. It depends on what you're looking for. But the truth is, we should not be making decisions all alone. But at the same time, you have to be very careful who you trust and who you ask for advice. Sometimes, I know you've seen all the movies where the women get together and they have dinner with their friends and they're sitting around and they're just tearing their spouses down. If you have friends that are helping you destroy the character and malign your spouse, those are not counselors. Those are gossips. And the words that you use are going to come back to you in some other way. When you and your husband or your spouse decide to make nice, then these people are going to be like, why in the world would you do that? You're stupid, and all these. That is not counseling. Counseling is to help you make good, sound decisions without trying to force your will. That is the balance. So that's the thing about biblical counseling. Now, some biblical counseling has been accused of trying to force your will because we use the Bible. That really depends on the counselor. Here at Beautifully Broken Counseling, we just tell you what the Bible says, and we will even say, but it's your life. You can do whatever you choose to do, and you can come back here next week and say, I don't like that. And we're like, okay, that's fine. That's your life. You can choose what you want. Also, if it comes to things like maybe if we're going to do letter writing and that's not your thing, you'd rather talk, all you have to do is say, I just never have been good at that. There's also a method where people do better when they talk face to face. And so that if they're in here with their spouse, we might put two chairs face to face, and they might communicate, and they might do very well because they are comfortable with one another. But if you have a couple where one side is not comfortable with the other one, that is the worst thing to do. So it's up to a knowledgeable counselor to make sure they are reading the temperament of each of the individuals and know what best suits them. And if they're wrong, they should be able to say, hey, if this doesn't work for you, let's switch it. What do you think will work for you? And that's the benefit of having a counselor who has been trained and has seen a lot of people. We've had over 250 people come through here. We have some very unique things, and that's what I'm going to go over with you. A lot of the things that I'm going to tell you today are unique to us at Beautifully Broken Counseling. So after you hear these, if you're interested, you can call us at 615-332-4389. So let's just get into what those are. Okay. All right. And I'm going to do it like, did you know? Okay. So did you know that counseling can be transformative? It honestly can be transformative. Every single event that I've gone through in my life, I have sought out someone to talk with. It was usually a counselor. Sometimes it was a pastor, or someone that I felt had the right answers, who had lived life long enough to be able to impart wisdom. And every one of them, I can see their faces right now in my mind. And I remember that they were so pivotal in my life that I do not know if I would be the person I am today if it had not been for them. So when you're looking for a counselor, make sure that there is a connection between you and that counselor, and that that person is speaking truth to you, that person challenges you, that person is not always just listening, but they're also giving sound advice. You do want that, but you don't want your counselor to give you only advice and throw everything at you. You want them to be able to have a balance. So that is a very good tip. All right, number 2, it is possible to laugh and cry in the same session and not come away with a bipolar diagnosis. I kind of laugh about that. But in Beautifully Broken Counseling, we don't look at our brokenness the same way the world looks at brokenness. We look at brokenness as a chance to overcome things in our life that we've been needing to overcome. We look at a chance to see God's hand in our situation. And so when you reframe brokenness into something that is also beautiful, once God redeems it and God does something wonderful in it, it changes the perspective. So it is very possible to walk into a counseling session and need an entire box of tissues, and by the end, you have laughter and you have joy and you have a smile on your face. It is very possible, and it happens all the time here. We do not just have this downward cast thing that you're coming into counseling, and we have to address every heavy thing. Sometimes you come in and the week has been good and you just need to settle into that for a moment, and that should be allowed. Or if you say, you know what, I am tired of talking about the past, I'm ready to grow towards the future, we have got that for you. Through our temperament testing, once you've dealt with the trauma in your life or whatever's going on, then we have an assessment that we give you. It gives us a 10-page report about you that is specific to your answers, and it is called a temperament test. And that temperament will then begin to teach you about you, so that the next crisis that comes or the next tragedy that may come in your life, you know what your temperament is and what it will do. You'll know what the weakness, the strengths, you'll know every bit of that. So that is a wonderful tool that we can use here to get you from crying to laughter, so that you can begin to learn about yourself. And when you interact with other people, you'll know what your temperament is. Let me give you a little example of this, how this plays out fantastically in marriage counseling. For example, my husband and I are 2 different temperaments. He's what's called a melancholy, and this is an affection, which would be your heart. The temperament scores you in your social, your intellect, and in your heart. Okay, that's just the quickest way to say it. He's a melancholy. That means his mind never shuts off. He's a thinker. He will dwell on things, and as a result, sometimes if he thinks negatively, he puts himself in a negative thought loop and he will go downward. And then if he thinks positively, he can get into an upward loop. Now this makes him more prone to things like depression and sadness and things he's had to deal with over the years. But what his temperament needs is quiet time. His temperament needs quiet time every day to reflect and defrag his brain, because even in his sleep, it doesn't shut down totally. Okay? Now that's his. There are some wonderful strengths with that temperament. One is, I want a closet organized and I just have to mention it, it's done. He's going to get it done. Another thing is, once a melancholy person is loyal, they've made up their mind that you're the one, they are all in. And they have wonderful acts of service. They are fantastic at that. All right, now my temperament. I'm a sanguine in heart. A sanguine in heart is what's classified as skin hungry, especially in the compulsive realm. Skin hungry means that I need a lot of I love yous. I need a lot of attention, a lot of reassurance, a lot of I'm here, I see you, we've got this, I've got this, I'm taking care of you. I need a lot of that from someone that I am in a love relationship with, not friends like in our social realm or at work, but just in my heart with my spouse and my family. So I need those kind of things. Those are important to me. Okay. So when we found out about our temperament, we always had this one argument, and it was, mine loves people and it needs to be with people. It needs to be out and be out with people, and it gets energized that way. His likes to sit at home and read and contemplate. So we were always like, why don't you want to go out? Well, why do you want to stay in? Well, why don't you want to go out? Well, what's wrong with me that you don't want to go out with me? The same argument. I'm sure some of you are laughing because you have it. Well, when we read the temperament, we found out I'm not broken. He's not broken. We're just different. And so when we went through counseling as far as the temperament, we found out that our differences are actually what draw us to each other, but they're also the things that tick us off sometimes. So we had to learn how to work within those and speak the language of the other person. That's the most amazing thing for counseling, because now if I'm grumpy, he knows I need a hug. And if he's grumpy, I know he needs to go to Barnes & Noble and read a book, and he will be fine and I will be fine. And we don't need to reject one another just because we're different. So that's a wonderful thing that is here at Beautifully Broken Counseling that you cannot get everywhere. That is a temperament counseling thing, and we had to actually learn a specialty to do this. So it is something unique to us. If we can help you with that, give us a call. All right, number 3, it is possible to actually love counseling. On our door, it says you are entering into a no stress zone. It's true. When you come in here, you will feel lifted. There is none of this drudgery. When you come in, we are going to start off, and we love our clients. We think the world of our clients. And so we're family here. We're both in this little bitty suite. So we have to cross paths with each other and each other's clients. And so you can come in and have a good time. Number 4, counseling. Did you know counseling is not just for crisis? Well, you don't go to the doctor just when it's about a crisis. You go and get checkups. You can actually do that with counseling. You can actually say, you know what, I don't want to get into a crisis in my life, or I want to learn about myself. That's the perfect time to come in and have a temperament assessment. And the temperament assessment, that can go as long as you want it to go or as short as you want it to go. It depends on if you want to talk or not. If you want to talk as we go through, it makes it longer. But if you want to really break it down and really, or just get it done, we can do that too. Just give us a call and we can do that. Did you know that you can renew your vows or get married in the counselor's office? Okay? Here at Beautifully Broken Counseling, both Todd and I are ordained ministers. I had to be ordained to be a counselor, and he was ordained as a pastor for 25 years. That means that if you are living together and you are wanting to get married, then we can do both your premarital counseling and marry you. If you want to get married quick, within 6 weeks, we can do the premarital. You can get married in the office, then you can go have your ceremony somewhere else. If you want to take your time, and if you need us to marry you even in church, he can do that. I can do that. We've all done it, and we've both done it. It depends on what you want. I've had several clients that were living together, and they went through the counseling and they wanted to make it right, and we would get married. They would get married right here in the office, so they could just have a small ceremony, and then they can go about their time. And then I've had other clients who had affairs, and when they had affairs, they wanted to renew their vows after they were well, but they didn't want everybody else to know they had had an affair. So we have actually had ceremonies in our office where people have renewed their vows and got remarried after an affair, and some even long-term affairs. It is possible to come back from an affair if you have a trained counselor that can help you reframe it and help all the parties have understanding, not that it was okay, but that it can be forgiven, and you can walk away from it, and you can have a better marriage than you ever thought before. And I do have clients that are willing to say that publicly to people if they need help to know that. All right, another thing. Some price, whether it's an individual or a group. Okay, at Beautifully Broken Counseling, we believe in fixing the whole family. So if you come in alone because you're the only one in your family that wants to get well, we'll talk with you for a while. After a while, if you say, you know, I'd really like to bring in my brother and have a conversation with my brother, then you don't have to tell us. You just show up with your brother, and we will talk with you and your brother. Our job when that happens is to keep everyone safe and everyone playing nice. It's not to spill anything that you said in any previous sessions, okay? So you're safe in that. So if you say, for example, you bring your brother, I might say, hey, how are you? And I'm so-and-so, and you're so-and-so. Okay, good, I'm glad you're here. And I would ask the first client, so what brings this today, and why are you bringing your brother, and what do you want to say? It will be up to them to bring that out and say what they want to say, and it will be up to me to guide or mediate. I guess that's a better word. I'm not guiding, I'm mediating what they, maybe if there's a landmine or a hot topic that we need to say, okay, can we just table this for one moment and get back to what's really going on? Because what I find is a lot of times when people rail up and they get angry, it's because of fear. And if we can address what they're really afraid about, it can change the dynamic in a relationship. Okay? Another thing is, did you know it is possible to be admired by your therapist? I can tell you this 100%. I love my clients. I know Dr. Kirkland does too. We look at their stories and we look at what they're going through, and we hear them week after week, and we see how much they grow, and we are astounded. We are amazed that they are able to walk this journey and keep moving. And some have been so incredible that I have to admit that when I heard it the first time, I'm like, dear Lord, if you don't move in this situation, this is going to be over for this person. And it breaks my heart. But I can tell you that each one of my clients that sat before me, there are times I will look at them and say, I'm absolutely amazed by you. And you know, sometimes we just need to hear that from someone. Somebody that we respect. We need to hear a genuine, I am simply amazed by you. And that is a gift we can give you and really mean it here at Beautifully Broken Counseling. Did you know that it is okay to be mad with your therapist and tell them about it? This is 100% true at Beautifully Broken Counseling, because we are not trying to control your life. There are times when we may get it wrong, but you have the grace always to say, I don't really like what you just said. That kind of stung. We want to talk about it. I've had clients tell me before, after they had gotten really well and they're ready to leave the program and they're doing good, they say, you know, when I left here before, I used to be so furious with you. I just could not stand that you were telling me that I needed to forgive. And I knew that. I can tell when they're upset. When they run away, we can't do anything about it. But I had great admiration when they stood there and were able to tell me how they felt. And then we could talk about, how is this unforgiveness and this bitterness really affecting you? They were transferring it over onto me. But after they got well, then they were like, you were right. And they hate to say you were right, of course, but I love it. So it is possible to be upset with your therapist and talk with them honestly and openly. And you are learning new communication skills when you do that. And the therapist should be able to handle it without being defensive and without pushing you back into a corner, okay? I know that there have been times that I maybe did not get that 100% right because I didn't read it, but I sure try to make sure that my clients know they can say whatever they want to say to me. It does not matter if I like it or not. I am not here to just prove my point. I am here to help you in your life. And did you know that you can experience a blessing when somebody prays over you. At every session in Beautifully Broken Counseling, we ask, how can I pray for you today at the end of every session? Our clients look forward to that because we pray out loud. You hear words of encouragement. And I can tell you we are also praying during the week for you. Did you know it is also possible to text your therapist during the week just to say hi or that you need some encouragement? This is something that's unique to us because this is our family practice. If you send a text and you're hurting, then I will go out on YouTube and I will do some research for you in that moment. I will find something that will encourage you and I will send it back to you. Now, we don't get involved in fights, so I will put that disclaimer out there that if you are in couples counseling and you want to enter into an email or a text fight, or I was right, he was wrong, she was wrong, whatever, we will shut that down politely. We will not get into that kind of dynamic, but I will send you a video that will talk to you about how to fight the right way or how to go to God. I had some clients and they call and they text and they want to draw us in, and I just let them know, no, we're not doing this because the other person is not here to defend themselves. We'll wait to the session and we will bring it up then. And so most people understand that that is true because you say things in a fight you wouldn't otherwise say. And when you're in front of them, you temper it a little bit usually. Okay, did you know that it can be safe? You can literally say anything. We know that you need to, okay? Even though this is biblical counseling, I have some people say, can I cuss? Well, of course, that's not our first thing, but if that's what you need to do to feel better and get past that type of anger, then we're not going to count how many times you cussed. I did have one client one time. He was a military guy. Every third word was the F-bomb, and he would not breathe. So there was no way to stop him. And so after a while, I just said politely, you know, I understand that you are hurting right now and you are just expressing your pain, and I get it. But my ears are bleeding just a little bit. So could we just back it up just a little bit? And he was happy to know that I still was accepting of him. But he needed to know that the way he was speaking to his wife with these words was also causing her distress, and he needed to check that. So we want to make sure that we try to be respectful, and throwing out words like that don't help the situation. But you're not going to get chastised for it here at Beautifully Broken Counseling. We are not here to be Sadducees and Pharisees. We are here to let you be you, but we want to be respectful, and that's what it's really about. Okay, and did you know that it is possible to test your therapist to see if that's true? It is okay to test your therapist to see if they will reject you or if they will receive you. And that is a really good indicator of what type of therapist you have. If you have a therapist that knows who they are, they're not rattled by that. And they can be in the room with you and be comfortable and not feel like they have to run out the door. So you need a therapist that is mature enough to handle the hard things of life. Todd and I have walked through some very difficult circumstances in our life, and we have seen how God has done miraculous things. So we can handle whatever you throw out. There is not a lot at this point that I haven't heard. Okay, did you know that you can choose weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or I'll just call you when I need you? That is true at Beautifully Broken Counseling. We do not mandate how many times you have to come. You can say, hey, I think I want to come weekly because I'm really being encouraged. I think I can only do bi-weekly because of time or money. Okay. I think I can only do monthly. Okay. Whatever you need. Or if you say, like some of my clients, I'll call you each week and I'll make an appointment, or I won't make an appointment. That's okay too. If we don't chase you down, but we might send you a text and say, hey, just checking in, making sure you're okay. Make sure you get on the calendar if you want to. If not, let us know. That is as easy as it is. It does not have to be stressed. Okay? Did you know that you could switch therapists at any time? Once you start with a therapist, it does not mean you have to finish with the therapist. Okay? For example, say you're in a different season and you start with one therapist and then it kind of gets where you're not having a really great conversation or whatever, then you can say to the therapist, you should be able to say, hey, I'd like to do some research to see what else is out there, but you don't have to be afraid of your therapist if your therapist is not somebody that has problems with self-esteem. Now, at Beautifully Broken Counseling, I'm not going to be threatened that you have to look for someone else, because you and I might not be your cup of tea. That's okay. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And I've talked with people that were of other religions, people that were different stages of life. We are mostly a fit, but not always. And that is okay. It's not a personal threat. It's just who fits with you. You shouldn't be afraid to tell your therapist the truth about how you're feeling. Okay, did you know that you could grow so much that you will actually want to help others? That is something that I've found a lot at Beautifully Broken Counseling, is that people come through and they are doing so well when they get done. They want to go out and help other people. And the last thing I want to read to you is Proverbs 11:14. This is in the Bible. It says, where there is no guidance, a people falls. But in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. In the Bible itself, it talks about counselors. All kings, all leaders, they had counselors. They had prophets and people around them that gave them guidance and gave them hope and gave them encouragement. Now, when they had yes men around them, they got in trouble. But when they had honest counselors that told them what God was saying, what God's word was saying, they did well. They won battles. This is what we want for your family. We want for you to come in. We want for you to get strong so that when you go home, you help your family get out of the dysfunction. Families today, the Christian families and the worldly families look identical almost. That's the sad part. But as Christian families, we should be able to guide our children in a way that's different. We should be able to guide one another. We should be able to take the hand of our spouse at any moment during the day and have the courage to pray for them, whatever they're going through. We should have that level of love and tenderness and that level of maturity that we can do that. And sometimes you need a counselor to help you do that. You're going to learn how to do that at Beautifully Broken Counseling, because we're going to teach you by example, and then we're going to teach you through practice. Some of the most beautiful prayers I've ever heard were in this room with a spouse that was praying for their spouse for the first time after horrendous brokenness. And the tears and the joy and the connection that happens is astounding. If you want that for your family, we have got the remedy here. Just give us a call at 615-332-4389. We're Beautifully Broken Counseling. Remember to subscribe, like, or share, and tell your friends. We have brochures here in the office if you'd like to get some and give some out to someone maybe who is hurting. It doesn't cost anything to call and ask for a packet, and we'll get that out to you through the email. All right, you have a great day, and it's the weekend. I hope you find a good church home, somewhere to go and somewhere to be encouraged, and we look forward to meeting you. All right, thank you.